Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another video here on the SSA Philosophy channel, where we, of course, dive right on into the philosophy of characters from video games to TV shows to movies, etc. etc. So, of course, in today's video this evening, we're going to be going over and focusing on the character known as Aiden Pearce. So, of course, without any further ado, let us go on ahead and let us get started. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we're going ahead to give a little introduction overall into the character of Aiden Pearce. So, Aiden Pearce, the enigmatic vigilante hacker at the heart of the Watch Dogs series. Really, Aiden Pearce is a character that is shrouded in complexity because really he's not your typical hero. Because see, Aiden pretty much he inhabits like say a moral gray area, one that's blurring the lines between vengeance and justice. And really, like our first encounter, like say with Aiden, really it comes really in Watch Dogs. Of course, the game overall that is set in a fictionalized, tech saturated Chicago. Now, here we pretty much learn, that Aiden isn't just any hacker, but really he's a skilled great hat. Pretty much possessing the ability to manipulate the city's CTOS, which CTOS, by the way, basically means, central operating system, which overall is a vast network controlling, everything from traffic lights to security systems. So really, this expertise initially served his own ends. So really, with Aiden, likely involved in criminal activities before the events of the game. However, his life takes a dramatic turn when a brutal act of violence tears his world apart. So really, the catalyst for Aiden's transformation really is the wrenching death of his niece, Lena Pierce. And really, this event really it ignites a really like say ferocious thirst for revenge. One that's propelling him down a dark path. And Aiden, he pretty much leverages, like, say, his hacking prowess to hunt down those responsible, transforming him into a vigilante known as the Fox. And of course, as the vigilante, he disrupts traffic, manipulates security systems, and even utilizes brutal violence to achieve his goals. So really Aiden's motivations, really his motivations are compelling, filled by a desire to protect what little family remains. So really Aiden, he's a fierce protector of his nephew, his nephew Jackson Pierce and also his sister Nikki, his sister, and really hacking, being like say his weapon of choice, really to ensure that the safety of the only family that he has left. And really, this duality, is really a core part of his character because Aiden, on one hand, he's a flawed individual, capable of ruthlessness, yet undeniably driven, he's driven by a desire, for justice. Now, while Aiden's hacking skills, while they do make him a formidable force, he's also no stranger, like, say, to, physical combat, because Aiden is definitely adept at, hand to hand fighting and wielding firearms. And he's also comfortable, in wading, pretty much wading, like say, into the heart of danger. So really, this blend of like technical prowess and raw physicality really is what makes him like really an unconventional but undeniably effective vigilante. So really, Aiden's journey really in Watch Dogs really is one of consequence because as he delves deeper into the city's underbelly, he uncovers a web of corruption, one that extends far beyond his initial target. And really, the line between vigilante, justice, and becoming a monster pretty much blurs further as he confronts the complexities of the situation. So, really, Aiden Pierce's legacy, really his legacy, it really extends beyond really the events of the first Watch Dogs, because Aiden pretty much becomes a legend, within the series, a symbol of both hope and violence. So, really, he's whether admired or reviled, his impact is undeniable. Because really, Aiden Pierce, I would overall would say is that really he's a character that really forced a lot of players who play Watch Dogs really to like question the nature of justice and the cost of vengeance. Making him pretty much making him a memorable and complex character within the video game landscape. And really, with all that being said, we're going to go on ahead, of course, to dive right on in, of course, into the philosophy of Aiden Pierce. And really, it's one that I like to call the digital vigilante, a philosophy of control in a corrupted city. So Aiden Pearce, this brooding hacker at the heart of Watch Dogs, he doesn't like say operate on like say, on a grand philosophy. Ironically, I mean we are talking about like say, the philosophy of this character. But overall, what I simply mean is that, like the thing is, what I mean when I say this, is that really Pierce is a man, that is really driven by like a singular, brutal purpose. And that one purpose is vengeance. Yet within his gritty approach, to justice, it really lies a fascinating, exploration of control and the power dynamics, really in a city that is choked, by its own digital leash. So really, when it comes to Aiden, the first like say tenet really of his philosophy really is the first one has to be is that hacktivism, hacktivism as a weapon. Now, what does this pretty much mean exactly? Now, what this means is that Aiden, he doesn't fight fire with fire. He fights fire with code. Because he sees the CTOS network, the supposed pinnacle of urban control, as a weapon, yeah, pretty much as a weapon that is wielded by, the corrupt. And really his hacking, it really becomes a form of digital, vigilantism, a way to wrest control from those who abuse it and expose the rot beneath the city's glittering facade. So really, when it comes to Pierce, Pierce basically, when it comes to like say, the power imbalance, for example, he sees, I mean, because really, I mean, really, Pierce sees a world, tilted towards the powerful and the corrupt. Corporations and governments, wield immense control through information and technology. And of course, when it comes to Pierce, like say, using hacking, like hacking as an equalizer, he views like say his hacking skills really as a way to fight back, by pretty much exploiting the digital vulnerabilities. He exposes corruption and really disrupts those in power and protects the vulnerable. And also, really like in Aiden Pierce's world, like information asymmetry really empowers the wrong people because he believes that by hacking and leaking data, he can bring transparency and empower the public. Now, here's the thing, really, about Aiden Pierce. Aiden Pierce isn't some, chaotic like anarchist. He's not like that. Because the thing about Aiden is that he's very meticulous in who he targets because he targets those that he sees as deserving, such as like say criminals, human traffickers, and corrupt officials. However, though, the line really between, vigilante, justice and digital vigilantism can blur. So really, Pierce's actions, often have unintended consequences, endangering innocents caught in the crossfire. And the collateral damage, pretty much raises a lot of questions really about the ethics of his brand of hacktivism. So really Pierce's philosophy, really this part altogether really is, of course, it's a double-edged sword, because really it highlights the potential of hacktivism, to challenge, like say, the power structures and also to expose wrongdoing. But it also forces us to consider the potential dangers like unintended consequences and the erosion of privacy. So really the question overall that I ask you all in this case is this. Is Aiden Pierce a hero or is he a vigilante? Well, the answer depends on your perspective. And of course, the second tenet overall, like so really another tenet, really a part of Aiden Pierce's philosophy, really is something known as shades of pretty much shades, of gray morality. So Aiden's a flawed hero. Like really, he's a criminal. Using criminal tactics, blurring the lines between justice and vengeance. Now, his actions have consequences, both intended and unintended. So, really, this complexity, it really forces the player to really confront the messy reality of really taking down like a system, and where collateral damage is, inevitable. So really Aiden's initial quest really overall is, fueled by a brutal desire for revenge. Because like I said before, the tragic death really of his niece, really it forced him, like say down a dark path, one in where it blurred the lines between, justified retribution and cold-blooded revenge. Now, Aiden's skills, like his skills overall are like very are very much overall, once again, are a double-edged sword. Because like I said, because really he disrupts the criminal operations and he exposes corruption, aligning with hacktivist ideals. But his methods, when it comes to this, are like ruthless intimidation and violence. Now they do pretty much stray far from like say peaceful activism. So really, Aiden, he operates under the cloak of anonymity, because like a digital wraith, and really this detachment, it really allows him to justify ruthless actions, but it also shields him from the consequences of his brutality. So really, Aiden, his moral ambiguity, it really reflects the complexities of the digital age, where information is power, and the lines between right and wrong can blur in the virtual world. So Aiden's really a reminder that anonymity, really can be really a breeding ground for for questionable actions, and that even fighting for a good cause can come at a heavy price. So really, and also, when now see the Watch Dogs games, really when okay, 'cause now see really when you think about it, the Watch Dogs games, they really don't impose like say really like a strict moral code, because really, players really have like a degree of freedom really in how Aiden approaches situations. Like do they target criminals or do they exploit innocents, caught in the crossfire? So really the shades of gray, they really deepen as, players make these choices, which really overall shape, Aiden's character and also blur the lines of his morality even further. And really Aiden Pierce, like really Aiden, like he's not like a hero, in the traditional sense. But really he's a man driven by vengeance, wielding powerful tools in a world pretty much without clear answers. So really, his actions, they do raise questions about, justice, vigilantism, and even the true cost of pursuing a moral code in the digital shadows. And also another tenet we want to focus and cover on really, is that information, really is information as power. So really, in a world that is saturated with data, Aiden understands the true value of information, because he uses it to manipulate, to expose, and ultimately to empower. And really, he shows that knowledge, especially in the hands of the ostracized, can be a weapon against a system designed to keep them powerless. Now, when it comes down to this, the CTOS network, which supposedly, it streamlines, city functions, it actually lays bare, everyone's lives, because Aiden, a master hacker, he can exploit this network to gain a staggering amount of intel, bank accounts, criminal records, even like traffic light control. And really everything, it really becomes a weapon in his arsenal, because people, corporations, the entire city, like really all of these things, they all have secrets, and Aiden understands the value of this hidden information because he can use it for blackmail, manipulation, or simply exposing hypocrisy. And really, in a world that is saturated with data, Aiden knows the true power lies in access and control. And Aiden, Aiden doesn't really fight like say with guns. Well, I mean, he does, fight with guns, obviously, but really he fights more like say with the data streams. And what I mean by this is that really Aiden can disrupt security systems. He can cause like citywide blackouts or red traffic lights to create chaos. You know, so really by manipulating the digital infrastructure, he can actually influence the physical world, like say in different ways, in dramatic ways. You know, so really, when it comes to this tenet, of Aiden's philosophy, really it's one overall, like really it's not one without its cost, because really the deeper that he dives into the digital underbelly, the more enemies that he makes. He risks exposure, retaliation, and really the erosion of his own privacy. And really the line between, vigilante and criminal, it blurs as he becomes increasingly reliant on the very system that he seeks to dismantle. And really, Aiden Pierce is really overall is a cautionary tale, because he shows like the immense power, information can hold, but also the potential for its abuse. And really in his world, secrets can be weapons, but wielding them comes at a heavy price. And also another tenet really focus and cover on of Aiden Pearce's philosophy really is the price of privacy. Now you see, Aiden, he operates in the shadows. Really he's more like a ghost in the machine because really he embodies, like say, the struggle for privacy in a world where every action leaves a digital footprint. And really his fight becomes a question. And that question is, how much freedom are we willing to sacrifice for security? And who really gets to decide that balance? So really for Pierce, privacy, it isn't a right, but really it's a fight. So really he isn't precious about his past, but he understands the power that comes with controlling his own information. So really in a world in where, CTOS, can manipulate your bank accounts, it can rig elections, even control your home appliances. Privacy becomes a shield against manipulation and control. So really, however though, when it comes to Pierce, like really Pierce is like say, brand of privacy, it comes at a cost because he operates in the shadows, a digital phantom, enacting his own brand of justice. His methods, while are brutal, and the line between vigilante and villain blurs. But the thing about Pierce, though, is that this tenet really in his philosophy is a paradox. Because he fights for privacy, a privacy that he's largely sacrificed, and he exposes the dangers of a system he actively exploits. But in a world where privacy is non-existent, perhaps I mean, perhaps that's the only way to fight back. And Pierce, like he embodies the fight for privacy in a digital age. A fight pretty much in where the lines between right and wrong are as tangled as the digital web itself. And also another thing to really cover and focus on really is something overall known as the cycle of violence. So really Aiden's quest for vengeance, really it is a self-perpetuating cycle because his actions, however righteous they are, as they may seem, they only breed more violence. So really the ending, it really leaves the question really unanswered. You know, and really that is that, can a system this corrupt ever be truly cleansed? Or is violence simply its language? So really Aiden's ruthlessness, really is a product of his trauma. Because really his grief, it really manifests as a thirst for revenge, a violent solution to a circumstance that he feels powerless to overcome through legitimate means. So really he enacts a brutal form of justice, mirroring the violence that took his niece. And really what this creates is that this creates a ripple effect with each, violent act potentially spawning further violence. So really, Aiden justifies his actions, really through the failings of the legal system because he sees the authorities as either unwilling or unable to combat the city's deeply entrenched corruption. So really, in his twisted ideology, really he becomes, judge, jury, and executioner, bypassing a system that he views as broken. So really, while targeting like say corrupt officials and criminals, there's also a sense that Aiden's true motivation is vengeance, not altruism. So really he doesn't shy away from violence against those that he deems lesser criminals, muddying the waters of his heroism. So Aiden's brand really of justice remains questionable. And really, when you think about it, is there really escape? Is there escape for Aiden Pierce? Because really, the game it really leaves this question unanswered. Because Aiden achieves a measure of revenge, but the emotional toll and the lives that were lost are undeniable. So whether he can truly escape the cycle he himself perpetuates is a matter of interpretation. So really, Aiden Pierce's story, really, it's one where really, and where like really, it's like one and where it's a tale of vengeance and also the allure of violent solutions. And really, what this forces us to question, what this really overall forces us to question is how much violence is justifiable and whether resorting to its dark embrace truly serves justice. And of course, with that being said, that of course comes to the conclusion of this video, ladies and gentlemen. But of course, you know, The thing about Aiden Pearce is that, this gruff hacker protagonist of the original Watch Dogs, Aiden Pearce, I would say overall is a very interesting character. He's a very like, well balanced out, well written character. One that I think, he continues to spark a lot of debate and intrigue. Because really his journey is one that is filled by vengeance for his niece's death. And really it throws him into the heart of Chicago's criminal underworld and the corrupt CTOS system that controls the city. So really through his hacking skills and the brutal efficiency and pretty much the brutal efficiency, that he displays, Aiden becoming a vigilante, him becoming a vigilante and seeking to dismantle the system and really expose those that are responsible really for that tragedy. So really Aiden, he's really a morally ambiguous character because he's a skilled hacker who isn't afraid to exploit people for personal gain, blurring those lines between vigilante and criminal. Because really, he's a man that is haunted by his past mistakes, particularly the collateral damage, caused by his actions. And really, this internal conflict, it really adds a lot of depth to his character, making him a more, like, say, than a typical action hero. And really, when it comes to Aiden, his reliance on technology, like really his hacking abilities, really they grant him this immense power, allowing him to manipulate the city's infrastructure and control really, like say, the flow of information. However, though, this dependence it also exposes his vulnerabilities because he's constantly aware of the dangers of being tracked and manipulated in the digital age. So really the ending of Watch Dogs, it really leaves Aiden's future uncertain. And while he, of course, achieves some semblance of revenge and exposes, like, say, the CTOS's flaws, the city does, of course, remain, really, it still remains under Bloom's corporation, pretty much under Bloom Corporation's control. And really, this ambiguity, it really allows players to interpret Aiden's fate and the potential consequences of his actions. So really, in this case, the question is that, did he become a symbol of hope or did he simply create more chaos in the already troubled city? So really, Aiden Pierce's legacy really it extends beyond the first Watch Dogs because his return in Watch Dogs Legion, as a playable character, it really highlights his enduring appeal. Because while it does offer like a different gameplay like experience, Aiden's inclusion, does serve as a reminder of the original game's impact and its complexity of its protagonist. So really, Aiden Pierce, I would say this, like he is more honestly than just a video game character, but really he's a reflection of our anxieties about, technology's growing influence and really the potential for the misuse of it. And really, he embodies the struggle for justice in a world where information is power and the lines between good and bad are constantly blurred. So, whether admired for his skills or questioned for his methods, Aiden Pierce remains a compelling figure, of course, in the video game landscape and always will be. And with that all being said, ladies and gentlemen, that of course concludes the video. So that is the end, ladies and gentlemen. So of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to keep continuing to keep seeing more videos that I make on my channel, of course, don't forget to like, to comment, and subscribe for more explorations into the minds of your favorite characters on this channel. And also hit the notification bell to also stay updated on my latest videos as well too. And with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have to say. So one thing before I go, ladies and gentlemen, always remember to always be smooth, to always be steady, and to always be aggressive. Peace.